Hi everyone, my name is Ierie, and this is Reminisce with This, where I take a little time out of my day to reminisce with you on times from my childhood that look back on and I appreciate and enjoy even to this day. And today is going to be a new theme, as I am trying to do themes for every week. So today is Favorite Friday, where I show you something, a favorite of mine, in the hopes that as time grows, every Friday, you'll also show something that is a favorite of yours regarding the topic or last week's topic. And today I am going to be diving in on cartoons that bring me joy and things that I still watch to this day. I still get up on my weekends and I started off by watching cartoons just as I did it as a child. I really do have a love for each one of these shows, and I have a lot of shows that I don't have here that I have digitally or they're on streaming services. But for such a long time, a lot of these weren't on streaming services, and there wasn't an opportunity to watch them unless you owned them on DVD. And so I have purchased a lot of them over the years. A lot of these shows were shown to me from family members and friends as I got older, depending on who I was raised by, because I was raised by an entire village. Honestly, my parents were young parents and did the best that they could. And, with that, they had a lot of help with my aunts, my grandparents, and friends of all sorts. And with that, they showed me a lot of cartoons that they enjoyed, and they sat with me as we watched these cartoons. So I have had such an appreciation for them over the years, and as times can get tough, I can put these on and have those memories come back full flood and just have so much love for these all over again, and just appreciate them for what they are and the people that were a part of them. Some of these people are no longer here, but doesn't mean that I don't get to have these appreciations still to this day. So with that being said, today is going to be, of course, my love for cartoons, as I stated, and I'm just going to briefly go over a lot of the cartoons that I watch and what I own. And I'm super excited to get into it, just like I have been the last few days regarding these topics. This is something that I'm really enjoying doing, even if it's just for a few people. And I am super happy that you guys are sitting here with me, those that are watching and those that will continue to watch over time. I would love to hear what your favorites of all different types of cartoons or things that you were raised up on regarding, memories that you have. And I just would love to spend a little of that time reading those comments and seeing what you enjoyed and what brought you joy as a child and still brings you joy today. So with that being said, let's get into it. I'm going to start off with one of my favorites. I absolutely love dinosaurs, and the Flintstones was always something that I enjoyed. I may not have always understood the episodes, as I felt like this was a little for maybe the older crowds, but I still was able to enjoy it. It was kooky, it was crazy, it was fun. For that most part, like I said, there are some aspects that I didn't necessarily understand, but seeing dinosaurs in an animated show caught my attention. I love dinosaurs, so that alone I would sit and watch for hours. Another crazy show that I grew up on, surprisingly, it's one of these shows that, as a kid, I didn't necessarily always understand a lot of the innuendos and things, because it took me until adulthood to find that out. But it also brought back a lot of memories of sitting with loved ones watching them. And, at first, as a kid, I just always thought, these adults were just, in a way, babysitting me, watching whatever. But a lot of the times they were watching them for themselves, because a lot of these jokes and things like that were written for the older crowd as well, where now I can reflect back and kind of have that appreciation even deeper for those moments where they actually were watching them to watch with me, to enjoy with me, but on their own scope. So of course that's going to be Ren and Stimpy. Crazy show. Like I said, they have a lot of innuendos now as an adult that I am able to just be like, dang, I am surprised that got on air. But at the time as well, the 90s were a crazier time where I feel that a lot of things were able to slip through the cracks. There are some cartoons like that today, but nowhere near something like Ren and Stimpy. So I absolutely love the show. Crazy antics. It's all over the place, but I still think it holds up in my everyday life. Just crazy show. Another crazy show that I used to honestly have semi-nightmares about is Real Monsters. Another show that I, as an adult now, can just see that there is, somewhat correlation into these monsters, to my life, where, they are trying to navigate themselves as monsters, where as a time I felt kind of out of place in ways myself, as I'm sure a lot of people have, but their specific journeys of navigating their monsterhood, if you will, and just trying to figure out their niche of that. And I really do enjoy these shows and the episodes that come, because I do feel like this is one of the shows that I can take something away from it, even as a young adult now, where I really just have that appreciation. And I sometimes, a lot of those hard-hitting moments as a kid, they kind of went over your head because you're naive, but now I can sit and be like, dang, that actually made me think this episode. So that was a great show. Another great show that I enjoyed from Nickelodeon is Chalk Zone. I really enjoyed this as a kid. I loved the artistic style that came from it. I loved the imagination that was constantly in every episode and how kooky it was. Though as an adult, I will say that as much as I do love it and I will watch it from time to time, sometimes the over excessive singing episodes can drive me up the wall. If it was every now and again, cool, but it feels like it's just about every episode. But again, I still love this show for what it is. It does help me sit and just reminisce on my childhood at my grandma's, eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches as this played in the background, where my siblings were at, and the crazy chaos that it was. It just helps me enjoy that moment in time a little more. Another amazing show that I enjoyed as a kid that I thought it was crazy. Sometimes I wasn't always allowed to watch it. It just really depended on the episode, because of how crazy the antics were and just how downright my grandma thought that it was a stupid show. But I absolutely loved Cat Dog. I absolutely enjoyed watching the crazy antics and just the bonkers aspect of this show, because it really is that. It's crazy, it is bonkers, it's kooky. The idea of it being a two-part system of a one-part animal is just crazy, and the journeys and the antics that they get themselves into, the schemes that they try to get themselves into, it was just fun all around growing up as a kid. I still remember at times that they had, I want to say, was it the Cheez-Its or the Cheese Nips or something like that, that they actually had the cat dog in that, and I absolutely always gravitated to wanting to get that as a kid, simply for the Nickelodeon characters that were in it, and Cat Dog being one of them. Another favorite of mine, I love this show. I absolutely feel that this is one of those shows that, for probably my elementary, middle school years, this is one of those that I was able to just really start to think that I could have an alternative style. There was never really the depictions of that for kids in a lot of kid cartoons. That was more of the teenage cartoons from what I assumed and what I saw. But Danny Phantom is that. I loved this series. I still watch this probably more than a lot of these cartoons, just because I can put this on the background, and because I've watched it so many times, I know what episode is playing as I'm like doing work around the house and stuff like that, where I can still have that memory play as well, which again, I absolutely love this. The alternative style of Danny, kind of had that edgier look for the characters, and it just overall, all the different ghosts and the storylines, and just overall, again, was one of my favorites growing up as a kid. Another show today that it's crazy. Hey Arnold, as a kid, we watched it to enjoy it, but now as an adult, I watch these episodes and I really like a few of these other, take in a little bit more of the in-depth episodes that they are. They touch on a lot of topics and things that I feel I overlooked as a kid, where now I'm like, dang, that is making me think a little bit. Pardon. But, it's crazy that this is a show that was made for kids when it does touch on such, at least for myself, things along the lines that we wouldn't necessarily think that could resonate with kids. And I don't necessarily think that a lot of us understood the full scope of it then. But again, as an adult, this is one that is a staple in my life, because I can sit and just appreciate it for what it is. There are those fun episodes and stuff like that, but there's also a lot of those episodes that really do make you think, and Hey Arnold is such a great show for that reflective pastime and how I can correlate it from my childhood to now where I'm at as an adult. Another favorite of mine, of course, is going to be the Rugrats. It is just a fun, overall, crazy adventure day in and day out of how these kids, babies, really have their imaginations just flow to a full extent. And I think that's what, as a kid, I really enjoyed reflecting on myself, because it just made me think that imagination is like completely endless, and there's nothing that can really stop you from having a great time, and Rugrats was that, and I still enjoy this for what it is. It is crazy antics of these children that get into crazier antics of their imaginations, and the stories are always so much fun. Another one for my childhood, like all of these are, is going to be DuckTales. Now, DuckTales, I really enjoyed for the memories that were held with who I watched it with. I was happy to watch them with one of my aunts who is a little bit older than me. She's about 15 years older than me, but these were a lot of the cartoons that she grew up on. So as she grew up watching them, I watched them with her as well. And it just brings me a lot of those wholesome memories for this time period. The crazy stories that they did, I loved the artwork and just the overall fun that comes from this, but simply more or so the memories that are tied with this series. And that also goes hand in hand with the next one. Same aunt, same cartoons shown, is going to be Darkwing Duck. I loved this. In a way, it was just like one of those superhero-esque shows where he tried hard and wasn't always the best superhero, but always saved the day. And again, I have more memories tied into watching it with my aunt and being able to enjoy it for what they were, simply because of just those memories tied into it. Another fun one that I absolutely enjoy is Gargoyles. I still watch this quite frequently. I actually just rewatched the entire series on Disney Plus, maybe about 2 months ago. I am super excited for the possibility of the live action. Now, I know live actions can kind of suck, but I'm in hopes that this is actually going to be pretty good. I'm trying to be optimistic about it, just simply because this is such a fun time in my life. At some point, I will do the figure reviews that I have. I have just about all of them from NECA, so stay tuned for when that comes about. But Gargoyles is such a great, dark, and gritty show, and I absolutely love, love, love Gargoyles. Another one that I enjoy, this is something more from the DC universe. Like I said, I'm more of a Marvel fan from my comic video, but the animated series of a lot of these DC shows still hold such like amazing placements in my life, because I remember just so much of the fun stories, the in a way comic stories that were taken from comics and made for kids. But the Justice League, the animated series, was awesome. Growing up, I waited each week for this. When I was a kid, I did own a lot of those like under 6-inch figures. I can say that I don't really have a lot of them. They did not stand the test of time with how I played with them. I was a little rough as a kid with a lot of my superhero figures as they battled each other and things like that. Some of them, had to take falls off of, the balconies and stuff like that to have that imagination of that story. And did a lot of these figures make it? No, like I said, I don't think I really have any remaining from it, but I would relive these stories with those figures time and time again. So this alone holds such a great placeholder for my childhood, simply for the memories and imagination that played into it. And that also goes hand in hand with the Batman animated series. I was a huge Batman fan as a kid. I really did enjoy a lot of these shows. At times, I had just about every Batman toy that was coming out at Toys R Us. I had like the Batmansion. I had like all of the crazy characters and things like that came from this series as it went on. And I just remembered having the most fun with them as time went on, and the imagination of storylines that I would create with my figures simply because of this series. So we'll keep it in the superhero realm for right now, but another one that I would like to talk about is Iron Man. Now, Iron Man was something that I got into a little later on. It was just one of those reruns that I saw one Saturday morning or something along those lines, and I didn't see too many of these episodes, so I actually got this later on in life as an adult, and I was able to enjoy it more as an adult, and just the art style for it is something that I still appreciate. It kind of makes me feel that it's like those old 90s comics brought to life on screen, and that's kind of what it reminds me of. Is like, I know that they are comic styled TV shows, that's where they're coming from, is the comics, but the art styles themselves, it just reminds me a lot of the comics, just as if they were coming to life on paper, from paper to screen. So being able to enjoy this more as an adult, I really have more of an appreciation for Iron Man. Was never really a superhero that I loved, but as I watch the show, I have grown to have an appreciation more for Iron Man. And of course, one of my absolute favorites, I did mention earlier that I have been so excited for X-Men 97, the continuation from the animated series. I think this is probably one of my all-time favorite cartoons that I have ever watched and continue to watch today. It's what has brought a lot of my love for the X-Men universe. This is another show that I was actually introduced to by my eldest aunt. I would sit with her and watch episode after episode, growing up as a little kid, and we would just spend so much time enjoying X-Men for what it was. My aunt is one of my placeholders for this show. I still happily talk to her about it and tell her about how that they have continued the cartoon and that she should get back into it, because it is a huge memory placeholder for me and all those times that I sat with her during this series. And one of my favorites for, as I got older, middle school to, my teenage years was, of course, Batman Beyond. I know this came out more as, and probably my elementary school days, but I really didn't start to have a real full appreciation for it until I was probably about in middle school, and then I just dived into it. I really did enjoy a lot of the grittier, futuristic styles that came from Batman Beyond. I still have such a mad appreciation for it. The Batman Beyond movie where the Joker returns is something that I love. I own that movie, and I still have such a love for this series, just for the simple fact of the nostalgia that comes from it. And it really is one of those things that I did have a lot of those figures as well growing up as a kid. Now, one I did talk about in my comics, of course, I love Teen Titans. I own every episode on DVD, and I am super excited for when that time comes where I'll be able to dive into my figure collection from this time period. Now, I still have such an appreciation for this. I loved the live action series where a lot of people may have not, but I loved seeing those characters come to life, and I was sad to see it end when it did, but just like I was for this, honestly. But I'm hoping that maybe somewhere down the line they will bring this back, even if it's just for one more movie, because this is one of those things that just stands time for me. Another great series that I absolutely cannot get enough of when it comes to superheroes, I'm obsessed. This is one that I would come home after school and watch endlessly, normally right after Pokemon and things like that. But that is another DC show, which is going to be Static Shock. I thought that this storyline was great. How they got their powers was great. And just all the different types of power sets was awesome from the characters that were shown in this show. I still enjoy it for what it is. It is just it just brings me back to my early childhood, and like I said, running home right after school just so I can catch these cartoons is something that I really, really do love and appreciate. Another one, I actually have so much love for this next one. I got her moon rod, or moon stick, if you will, tattooed to the side of my face, but that is going to be Sailor Moon. Now, this is what I used to watch on Toonami. It would normally come on after or before sometimes Dragon Ball Z. So it was one of those things that I would watch, and then my brother would watch his show because he was into Dragon Ball Z. I always have had a mad obsession with magical girls, strong women characters. Now, of course, as the character develops over the series, you see a lot of the strength that comes from her. I know that I want to say it was the third season or maybe the fourth season that it did end in the States. I want to say it was the third season. So I didn't actually get to finish the series until adulthood, where they actually brought them back and brought them into the hands of the collectors via DVD. So being able to finish that series from the original series and then get into the manga, and then of course Sailor Moon Crystal, which kind of follows a little bit more along the lines of the manga. So I absolutely love this. You will be definitely seeing my figure collection from SH Figure Arts over time regarding Sailor Moon. And of course, I can't forget about my girls. Now, I don't have necessarily the TV series, but this is a placeholder in my life. I love the Powerpuff Girls. Like I said, I love strong female characters, and this was just awesome growing up as a kid, and just this movie still holds such a huge pertinent point in my life, I will still sit and watch this while eating pizza and just reminiscing on simpler times, because this movie was one that we rented as a kid, and my sister, my cousin, myself, and just overall this was like a family movie that we all sat and watched. And it was something that I had the love for the Powerpuff Girls grow to now, even as an adult, I still have this love for them. And coming in with one of my all-time favorites of my cartoon collection is, of course, Pokemon. I have grown since childhood with this show up until where it's at now. Now, I have missed a lot of the later series and seasons of Pokemon, but I still have a huge placeholder for the first, like, up until about Diamond and Pearl. It was a little hard for me over time to have the original voice actors dissipate, and they put in the newer ones due to them wanting to change out the people, which kind of took away that nostalgic aspect. But I will say that I have watched some series here and there, and continued even Advanced Battle, where they did change those voice actors, and I still get to have a little bit more of that appreciation. So let me know if you think I should continue the series from the standpoint of around Advanced Battle or Advance, where they did change those character voices. I have seen clips in here and there, but I will say that I haven't gotten into it just yet. But if you think I should, let me know. Of course, I love a good classic mystery. That's probably where I have my fascination with true crime, and that is based off of Scooby-Doo, and absolutely love it. One of my favorite bands of all time did the theme song for What's New Scooby-Doo, and of course that's Simple Plan. I have had the opportunity to meet them, and somewhere down the line you might see something from that time period of meeting them and why they hold such a placeholder in my life and why Scooby-Doo does. But I absolutely love true crime, and I think this is where that fascination started, is simply from the unmasking the villain each episode. So absolutely love it. And last but not least, the wild thornberries. Now, I love animals. I love the adventure that this was from, and how many times I wished I was like Eliza Thornberry. I at one point wanted to be a veterinarian simply for the fact that I just loved animals. But as I got older, I found out that I'm allergic to just about every animal possible. So that was never going to be a possibility for me. But I was able to live vicariously through this show and enjoy it episode after episode, where I own every single one today, and I just get to sit and enjoy what it is for what it's worth. So with that being said, that was just a little moment of my time with you regarding all of the different cartoons and things that I love and I have enjoyed over the years. I know this was a lengthy video, so if you've stayed this long, thank you. If you had any favorite cartoons, like I said, that you would like to share with me, and something that maybe I didn't talk about and you would like me to watch, let me know. Leave a comment below. And again, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. It's been an absolute pleasure. I have been really enjoying doing this series of just the weekly, daily, different themed aspects. So again, I appreciate you for reminiscing with me today, and I hope you have an amazing day. So again, I will see you on the next one. Until then, peace.